this idea around sovereignty. So we've taken that to heart, and that's why we've put that in our group name, okay? So when we see ourselves as sovereign, we don't see ourselves as obeying vaccine mandates or being told by the New Zealand Prime Minister that, oh no, you know, when the vaccine comes out, there'll be no mandates. That's what she said. She was quoted as saying that there'll be no mandates. And then all of a sudden going to, she's now written up legislation that I have to be honest with you, Joey, at this point, I don't understand why, you know, any feminist would go along with it. You know, that's a patriarchal system. The government is patriarchal, and they're imposing something upon our bodies. So, but from a Māori perspective, from our perspective, why would we just be obedient without questioning, right? So that's where, yeah. So for us, so none of us are with that group anymore, as far as I'm aware, at least. And, you know, there's just this unwillingness, again, I'll go back to Karen Davis's channel, there's this unwillingness to sit down and talk to us like we're human. That's what I'm trying to say, you know. It's as if, for some reason, we don't know anything. What do we know? Who are we? Mm-hmm. You know, we're treated inferior. So we go from, oh, yes, you know, we're a group of Pākehā women who support Māori and we support the treaty, to, what do you know? You're not a biologist. You know, it's like, well, hang on, that's not what we're saying. So, and it turns very, very quickly, you know. Mm-hmm. But it's not the first, for me personally, I can't speak for, I know they've had other experiences, but, you know, for me personally, that is pretty much how it works, you know. And often when I've been in other groups too, what it does, another way that it how can I say, it expresses itself is you get left to do all the work. Mm. You know, it's another thing. You know, part of these groups, all of a sudden, oh yeah, so what did your last slave die of? Oh, not dead. It's you, Michelle. You know what I mean? So you're left to do all this work. Obviously, you can say no, you know, and I have, but and it's a bit of a jolt when you realise. Like I started realising this, you know, like in my early 30s, I guess, late to early 30s. I thought, hang on, what's this about? And it's not something that we don't talk about it among, you know, in our family or anything, not much. And when I took it to my elders, they're like, yeah, it's appropriation. That's what they do all the time. Use us all the time, you know, all the time. Like, again, like how transgenderism is using our culture. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I think they try to align with Indigenous cultures to give the appearance that they're ancient and enduring, that they've always existed. Yeah, it's not true. It's not true.
It's the rewriting. It's the rewriting of everything. It's something that,
it is.
You know, even in Western culture here, when we go back to this whole early transgenderism and this desire and this need, really, because if you're going to create this narrative that men can be women and women can be men, then you have to look back and go, I mean, when they started talking about Joan of Arc, in that way, keeping it also in a very white, even, you know, with history, talking about white figures like Joan of Arc. Yeah. She was trans, or they were trans, is what, you know, became there. And then even Stonewall, you know, in 1969 in the United States, in New York, Stonewall was two trans women. No. And the thing is that we're constantly trying to keep track, because it's a whack-a-mole issue.
It is absolutely that.
But staying on this thing around white feminism, and somebody saying to you, well, that's white feminism. Are there other things about feminism that you have been able to experience that you felt, yes, you could understand this piece or that piece of something, and then been discouraged, either directly or in reading something, or really in interactions? Has it presented itself where you said, you know, feminism really is like this it's a white led thing and it's not for me, you know, like what's been uninviting about it for you or anything?
Definitely that, well, it's white focus. It really is. And like I said, just like men fail to see their own sexism, or for the most part, the women in feminism fail to see their whiteness as well. God knows. But anyway, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
They do. And even if you, like, I've actually attempted to politely, explain. I've spent days actually trying to be polite about it. Just totally unwilling. I mean, maybe a little bit, but they take offense. They take it personally. Oh, you're calling me racist. Well, maybe I am. But what I'm trying to say is you need to think about that because, that's what we say to men, isn't it? Like they need to go and sort that stuff out for themselves. I'm not going to run after men and start telling them what they, you know what I mean? They need to sort that stuff out for them. I feel the same way about, how the feminism movement needs to sort, that stuff out. But largely I've found that they're unwilling, That's just the long and short of it. And I shouldn't have to say this, but I will because I'm sure that someone's going to, take it personally. Not all white women.
Oh, jeez.
I can just imagine the kickback I'm going to get from this. But,
That's a great one.
Going back to women in prison over here, that's been one of the things for me personally is that, oh, God, if you do anything, how are these women going to be treated? Because they're vulnerable in there. They can be exploited in a heartbeat in jail. Mm-hmm. You just don't know what's going to happen. And if they're being housed with these dangerous rapists that we've been told, but it's not being publicised, what could happen if we start, yes, we support them, but if we're public about it, what impact does that have for them on the inside? Mm-hmm. And Indigenous women are usually inside not because they've, they're serial murders or they're, pedophiles. It's usually because they've got fines, unpaid fines. That's why they're in there. And as we know, the crimes that men commit versus the crimes that women commit, and it doesn't matter what culture you're from as a woman, they're worlds apart. Mm-hmm. There's a massive gulf there. And it's not even the men that are inside, if they're inside for fines, it's not even them that are claiming to be women. It's the violent ones, Joey, as you well know. It's the violent rapists, it's the pedophiles, it's those awful ones that are claiming to be women. They're exploiting it. So, yeah. And, when you're talking about Indigenous women, you're talking about a legacy of trauma. And I'm not saying that, that we're all victims. No, we're survivors. I find a lot of power out of that we survived, against all odds, we survived. And I I'm not saying we're victims, I'm saying that we are survivors. But in order to survive, you pretty much got to fight your way, So we're not talking about middle-class women who have gotten away with drink driving. I know plenty of women here where I live, and they've said to me, oh, I don't know why is she inside for drink driving? And I got pulled over heaps of times. And I'm thinking, wow, you have no idea. That is another example of how just oblivious to it all, eh? Mm-hmm, you know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry, I've probably gone off here.
No, it's all very familiar to me with the way that people are treated here and reasons that women who Black, brown, Asian women that have said, white feminism, I don't need that. And it's something that, in organizations and nonprofits I've worked in my own personal stuff that I've done, it's really, really imperative to me that whether it's a production of something or whether it's I don't care if it's a book club or whatever. I know that as human beings, we tend to stick with those that are very much like us, that's familiar, and we will do that. And I think that it's really important, of course, because I'm in a culture that is dominantly white, that if we know that in terms of just the sheer population, that it's very important that once we're doing political work, or we're doing big productions where we're trying to bring a lot of different people together, that it's really important. And we actually make the time and make it a focus that we work not out of tokenism, but out of true sisterhood, that we try and say, look, you come from a different perspective than I do. It's something that and believe me, I'm not a big festival goer. The Michigan Women's Music Festival that went on for 40 years in the United States, right? One of the things there, just in spite of whatever economic background a woman had that came to the festival, this went on for like 4 or 5 days. I don't even remember now how long by the time the 40 years was up. But anyway, part of that, when you pay your money and you would go, or if it was sort of a scholarship or whatever, but you going there during the course of those days, that you were in this little world that was created, that was supposed to be for women only. You were supposed to do a minimum of 2 shifts in different things, like working the kitchen, working where the showers are, working, the building of this or that, or in the course of the weekend, no matter who you were. And what that did was to be able to help break down race and class differences with women, because they had to work next to each other. I mean, literally do things to help create the idea of building community together, and what building community together means. And if there are groups or people that show up on the land to simply sell their message or sell their wares or whatever, and they manage to stay away from being involved in that process, then they're not taking part in that, and they're not really living whatever it is that they thought they were going to come, because it's not just a music festival. It was a cultural festival to try to break down barriers between women so that conversations could get started, much the way that this is, and what I'm trying to do with this little channel here. So I really appreciate all the sharing and everything that you've done. And I want to ask you kind of sort of a last thing here, unless there's something that you want to, say, is, what do you see? This is March 2022 that we're recording this. Everything that you don't seem like you're behind the 8 ball too much to me. You seem like you've got pretty damn far in a short period of time, a very short period of time. But where do you see yourself if we're looking now? What do you think you'll be doing by June, by July, by August, months from now? Do you have any clues? Are there projects that you're working on with? You said you're in Australia. You've got your sisters from another mister in New Zealand. Do you have projects coming up on the horizon that we can know about?
Well, we Manawahini Corridor, we've been so busy with other stuff that we haven't even had a chance to have our first meeting of the year, Joey. So that's how busy we've all been. And, as a homeschooling parent, at the start of the year is always busy for me anyway, because I'm, figuring out the curriculum and all that type of stuff. So once we meet, we've got a few ideas, but I'll have to speak to them about it first. We might look at doing something like perhaps on our YouTube channel, doing some lives maybe, and even interviewing people perhaps, because as you said, trying to break down the barriers with women, it's really important. By the way, what I said about Pākehā women and white women, that does not mean we will never work with them, obviously, or anything like that. But the one thing if you don't mind that I say about the one other thing about feminism that I've noticed, it's very academic, and nothing wrong with academia, although it is patriarchal. But I find, sometimes I think, when I'm watching them organise on, with their forums and everything like that, yes, they speak to all women, by the way, but it seems that the popular feminists are academics, and it's almost like even among white women themselves, they will tear each other down if the other doesn't like what the other has said. It's really, that's quite destabilizing for someone who's new. I'm just talking from my own perspective, by the way, who's not only new to feminism, but, new to this. This is an entirely different culture for me, and I kind of think to myself, well, what is their feminism about? Is it just about people with degrees, women with degrees? Is that it? Are they the only women that are allowed to talk, or that have value? With, that's kind of what I'm, that's a question, by the way. So yeah, that's the other takeaway for me regarding feminism. However, I do support feminist values in terms of, putting women first, women's rights, protection for women. But I'm a big one, as Māori women as well. We are big on protection for our children and our, grandchildren as well. So, so yeah.
So you mentioned, obviously, you're familiar with Karen Davis. Are you? Yes. Are there other YouTube creators or women that are writers? I mean, you obviously know about Jennifer Billick and her writings, and that's helped inform your decisions about this. Who are you watching, and what are you paying attention to these days? What's drawing?
Well, I've been watching you lately, Joey. So that's been fabulous.
Subscribe.
You're building a wonderful community, I have to say. And I do watch Kelly J, because she's one of the first women that I came across that was, I followed her because I'm thinking I need to get my head around this. So I do follow when I can. But see, that's the other thing, Joey. I can't always, I don't have, a lot of time in the day to sit down and, do you know what I mean? So, I mean, that's really about it. And the rest of my time, I kind of spend, trying to have a look at the minute anyway, looking at the fourth industrial revolution. I've been listening to a lot of, interviews and podcasts. And the other night, I was up till about 3 a.m. listening to a meeting in The Hague about their concerns around, lethal autonomous weapons. So you know what I mean. So I'm kind of at the minute, that's where my focus is at, because I'm just trying to get up to speed with it all. Cultures are being appropriated, and so that we need to have a voice in that. Anyway, so that's why we chose that name as well. Sovereign Women Speak. Not only because they had it, but also, like I said, that word mana is it's in our founding documents. It's very it's important to us as Māori, and what we believe ourselves to be.
Mana meaning sovereign?
Yes, that's right. Mana means sovereign, wāhine woman, and kōrero means speak.
We talk about how they start with language and then they make it law. And now we're talking about culture and the same thing. Get the kids early, because what they're talking about now with the medicalization of children is literally they're starting to skip puberty blockers and move them right to wrong sex hormones as young as 8 years old, Michelle.
I didn't know that. Oh my God. Okay.
Yes, more exporting of ideas. Welcome to America.
Okay.
Yeah, let's skip the puberty blockers altogether. And
wow.
So this is starting to happen. It depends on, which state you're in, who people see, what's going on. Of course, our insurance switches around, depending on what's happening. But yeah, and the idea around getting the puberty blockers even in as young as 8 years old or whatever with kids, it's better to get them younger, because the secondary sex characteristics that come out in voice, in looks, and everything, that you get an 8-year-old boy and you put him on puberty blockers a lot earlier, it's way better than if he's 13 or 14, because that's when the voice starts to change, right? And so just the younger, the better. And girls, the same thing. The girls, the deep voice that is permanent.
Yes.
Much better you get them before they've really developed their voice, because you hear this. This is why you have a buck angel with a cartoon voice. And if you know who that is, you'll become familiar with that. Yes. And you've got, the ACLU here in America, we've got this cartoon figure, goes by the name of Chase Strangio. Her voice is like a cartoon. She's much younger than Buck, but the thing is, they didn't get her when she was a little kid.
Right.
If I were to start going on testosterone now, I mean, I already know my voice is naturally getting older, because that's what happens with older women, right? With menopause and everything. But if I went on testosterone, I mean, it's going to sound very different than if I had done it when I was 15, 16, even up to 20 in my early 20s. So that's why I wanted to go into this territory. I thank you so much for being willing to go there, because a lot of people won't. They don't want to see connections in these conversations. If they seem meandering for any reason, it's because these are the organic things that come up, because there are connections that, that get made for just spending time and having patience to process things, because I think it's a lot, it's a hell of a lot that.
Well, it is. And it is a lot, Joey. And I will say something. I didn't finish off the story about why I homeschooled my child, just so everyone knows. She didn't steal a thing, by the way. Her teacher accused her of stealing when she didn't steal a thing. And she did apologise to my daughter, but not before an assembly. She just, in passing, laughed at her and said, "Oh, I got that wrong, sorry." And that was it. That's the apology my daughter got,
How's the homeschooling going? And
oh, look, it's good. High school's a lot more involved, but I mean, I knew that. Look, like I said, the reason why we came into homeschooling, I didn't know about the trans stuff, but because of the trans stuff, there's no way I'm putting her through high school at all, because at first I was thinking, I'll just, take her through primary school, then for high school, I'll put her into school. But yeah, no. When I became aware of what was going on with all the trans, there is no way, Joey, I'm letting my child go into that. She's from I'm a single mum. We'd be fair game, if you see what I'm saying. That's what it, when I look at some of the kids around that are, not all the time, but, yeah. So anyway, so we're homeschooling through high school, and it's actually it's because of the homeschooling, now that I think about it, that I started thinking about the fourth industrial revolution, because you do learn about in some of the projects that I set up for my daughter, we've come across this incredible technology that they've made. I'm like, never heard of that before, so it's kind of taken me down that path.
This is kind of like me telling you about WhatsApp, right?
Yes, like WhatsApp. Thinking, no one uses that. I've never heard of that.
I'm telling you, yes. This is how you talk to people all over the world.
I'm gonna have to look that up, Joey, for sure.
Yeah.
So look, homeschool, it's not for everyone, but we enjoy it, and we keep in touch with our own homeschooling. We've got a group happening. We catch up all the time, and ideologically as well, we're all the same, not, you know what I mean? Like you, going back to what you said before, you tend to, you tend to be drawn towards groups that, have the same
right
understanding and morals as yourself. Well, that's definitely the case. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, yes, darling. It's definitely the case with this homeschooling group, and I'm really grateful for it too, because there are homeschooling families that have fallen for the trans stuff. Let me just be very clear about that. But these families are, on the same, similar understanding, same page as myself. So, yeah, so that's really good.
Outside of the homeschooling families, do you have friends? Do you have people that really support you and they're completely behind you?
Yep.
Do you have opposition that could cause trouble for you or anything? Do you have opposition with your neighbors or like from the school, people from the school your daughter used to go to?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't, not that I'm aware of. This is the other thing too. I think no one's spoken to me about it. I've only had one, it's a few years ago now. She took some psychologists, can I just say. We used to be, friendly, and our kids used to play together and all that kind of stuff when they were younger. And she took issue with what I was saying on Facebook about transgenderism. I didn't want to talk about it, of course, and then just blocked me, which is fine. But they don't want to talk to my face, they don't want to come and talk to me. Otherwise, they would have. And I'm more than happy to have the conversation. I've always said that from the start too, Joey, because I thought long and hard about, do I hide behind a pseudonym? What do I do? How am I going to address this? And I just thought to myself, because I'm not good at lying. I try, but I'm just not good at, and it's not about lying. It's not that. And it's not that so much. It's obviously I was thinking about how do I protect my child, all that kind of stuff. And I just thought, you know what? I'm going to have to be upfront. I'm just going to say it, because I'm like that, just generally speaking. That's just the way I am. I'm not saying I'm right about everything, Joey, but I know I'm right about this. I know I am. That's definitely, humans cannot change sex. No one can ever talk me out of that. There is no way. I don't care what degrees you've got. At the beginning, I had lots of people trying to talk me out of it, and oh, but you're being racist. Like, what the, you don't even know. These white people telling me I'm being racist, against trans women of color. What can I say?
In the entertainment world, right?
Thank you. In the end, yeah, it's pretty soaked with it.
I don't want to lose my followers. And they're looking at dollar signs on the end of followers, right?
That's
they won't
right.
buy their CD, they won't buy their
That's right. Exactly.
And they won't show up to the clubs to pay tickets to see them perform.
It's so ridiculous. It's like we're all back in high school trying to play the popularity game, like grow up, I'm lucky that the projects that I've been involved in musically, they've all supported me. And mostly because they're blokes, Joey. They're like, yeah, nah, you just can't change this. We totally support you, Shell. You know what I mean? So I've developed some really lovely friendships through the music projects that I've been involved in.
You've gone down this rabbit hole. I do understand your time's restricted with homeschooling, but if you weren't looking at this rabbit hole now and it wasn't happening, what do you think you'd be doing with your time? Writing music?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'll be getting back to that for sure. I haven't written music for just before I started doing, because I was working actually. So yeah, I haven't written music. I mean, I've done a bit, but not much. I'll be writing music. I'd be performing. I wouldn't be homeschooling because I trust my daughter would be safe at the local high schools, whichever ones, So I've actually changed my life around this stuff, so that to protect my daughter, and also I guess in some ways to protect myself as well, Joey, because you don't know, as a performer, like I've been stopped in the, while I'm out shopping, I've been stopped in the street by people. I don't know who they are, and that they've come up to me going, oh my God, is your name Michelle? Are you that singer that I saw the other weekend? And I'm like, yeah, I think so, maybe, so I don't know what they're talking about. Like, oh, wow, you're amazing, so that's a bit odd, I've got to say. They know you, but you don't, so.
Oh, how are they knowing you though? What are you saying that it's what's
my perform? So when I sing, so when I've been out, when I've been singing, yeah, so through my performances that I do, through being in bands,
Yeah.
So they don't know me, but they've seen me perform with my band. So you don't know what kind of audience will be watching you when you go, you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, I would not want my fellow band members to have to deal with that kind of stuff either. So I must admit, I have thought about that. But like I said, I've never been told that, oh, no, you can't come here. You can't sing here anymore because you're a TERF. I've never been told that, But to be fair, I haven't had the time to do it either, Joey, because I'm busy homeschooling and doing this stuff.
Only time will tell now. We'll see.
Well, that's right. We'll see. We will see.
Michelle, thank you so much for sharing so much about your life there and what's going on. And I'm going to be putting the link for the story because I want everybody to read your article that's in the 11th Hour blog. Is that the first piece that you had printed? Like that published?
Yes, yeah. It's the first time that someone's actually published, someone else has published my work. But Manawahini Corridor have got a YouTube channel. That's how we, where our main aim is to get the word out to everyone about how transgenderism is appropriating our Indigenous culture, and as far as we can tell, other Indigenous cultures. So we'd be more than happy to hear from other women, other especially Indigenous women who feel they don't have a voice. We've been contacted, obviously, behind the scenes from other Māori women who are petrified at all this stuff, and who feel like they are unable to do anything at all because otherwise they lose their job, their friends, they have to homeschool, and some of homeschooling's not for everyone, Joey. I'll be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still. Jury's out on whether it's still for me. But no.
Do you see college? With all this?
At the minute, right here, right now, universities are not a good place for children, as far as I can tell, because it is soaked in wokeism. They have mangled what racism really is. They have mangled sexuality. They have mangled women's rights, and they are continuing down that trajectory, from what I can tell. So frankly, I'd prefer it that she didn't go to, university, but don't know when we get to that stage, only time will tell, Joey, we'll see.
And have you been saturated with Black Lives Matter or just BLM? Is that something that?
I'll be honest, it is, yes, it has been saturated here in Australia, but I personally have chosen to step away from it because it's a bit much right now. And see, often there's a bit of a difference, or significant difference between movements like, Black Lives Matter and, for us, for Māori. And obviously because, we've been colonised in our own lands, in our own country, if that makes sense, whereas they've gone through slavery, so that, see what I'm saying? So there's a fundamental difference.
Mm-hmm. So again, thank you so much for sharing all this stuff. This is really fascinating. And I know for a lot of the audience, they've not heard from any Maori woman talking about transgenderism before. So this is a good thing. And like we were talking about, one person at a time, right? These interactions are really important.
Absolutely.
To have.
They are indeed. And it's a pleasure. Thank you so much. It's an honour. I take it as an honour. My sisters from another mister in New Zealand, the Landy sisters, were so excited when I said I was coming onto your channel.
Well, I'll be getting Rex at some point. So
great. Great.
All right. Thank you, Michelle.
Great.
Talk to you.
Thanks so much.
I'll follow up with you. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.